Hey, it's going to be a great week for every one of us. It's raining here, but I'm sure it's sunny someplace.
Maybe.
Where?
I don't know, maybe.
Anyhow, we're glad to have you with us. It's going to be a great program. The world is watching the United States and North Korea. So they get ready for the first ever meeting between their leaders. Both sides have to work out the time and place of this unprecedented summit.
Trump administration officials say the president's tough pressure on North Korea brought it to the bargaining table. Now the question is, what happens next? Jenna Browder has the story from Washington.
The White House is moving ahead with plans on a historic meeting between President Trump and North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, though many of the details still have yet to be worked out.
They're going to end or rather cease missile testing, cease nuclear testing, and they've agreed to not object publicly to the upcoming South Korea-United States joint military exercise.
Deputy White House Press Secretary Raj Shah says there will be no more conditions imposed between now and May, and that Trump's tough sanctions help push North Korea to these talks.
Our policy is pressure. It's pressure from our partners and allies around the world, pressure through the United Nations, pressure through China. These have had an impact, and it's impacted Kim Jong-un's behavior. It's impacted his conduct.
It's still unknown where the meeting will be. Some critics say Trump acted impulsively by quickly agreeing to the meeting before negotiators from both countries could set some clear goals. Still, Trump sounds optimistic.
They're not sending missiles up, and I believe that. I believe that. I really do. I think they want to do something. I think they want to make peace. I think it's time. And I think we've shown great strength.
And with the president continuing to stand firm, the world now waits to see if he and Kim can in fact make a deal. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
I frankly am skeptical about the North Koreans. They have reneged on every single deal they've made. They are sneaky, they are duplicitous, and as somebody said, it's a crime family in charge of a country. You know, Kim's grandfather was put in place. He was a lieutenant colonel the Russians put in some years ago, and they have canonized him, idealized him, you know, but his son was a libertine, lived it up. He loved fine French wines, European prostitutes, and all that sort of thing. And this grandson is running the country, but it is the most repressive nation. The people are starving. They literally are underweight compared to the South Korean relatives. And to think he's going to change, I don't know. But anyhow, the president, I guess they'll go to Panmunjom, which is right there on the border. But you know, I also think that Secretary Tillerson is probably going to resign because he was not included in this at all. You know, when you have aides of the stature of that man, he used to run ExxonMobil, a huge civilian company, you bring him into the loop. You say, look, Rex, what do you think? I've got this invitation. What do you think we ought to do? And he begins to give his input. The president made this decision without cutting him in at all. And I think in the next few days, you'll see his resignation. If I were Tillerson, I think I would resign under circumstances like that. And I believe others will. Well, it will, you know, you're always hopeful. But so far, the North Koreans have reneged on every deal that we've made. We've given them money, we've given them food, we've given them all this stuff. And every time we do, they take it and they laugh at us, and then they change their mind and they start doing what they've been doing before. Well, in other news, President Trump hit the campaign trail again over the weekend for a Republican candidate in a special congressional election in Pennsylvania. John Jessup has that.
Pat, that's right, and it's a widely watched special election because Democrats believe they can win in the district President Trump carried by 20 points in 2016. So the president traveled to Pennsylvania to rally support for the Republican candidate, Rick Saccone.
This guy should win easily, and he's going to win easily. You got to know him. He's an extraordinary person. Go out and vote on Tuesday for Rick Saccone. Rick?
Do we love our president here in Western Pennsylvania? Yeah, oh, we do. I want to thank President Trump. As I said before, if President Trump's in your corner, how can you lose? He's the best man you could ask, anyone could ask to be in your corner.
Polls show a tight race between Saccone and Democratic candidate Connor Lamb. Lamb says he doesn't agree with the more liberal wing of his party on certain issues. Democrats hope a win in this race will show they have a chance to take back the House of Representatives in this fall's congressional elections. Well, the bull market on Wall Street has passed its 9th birthday. The uptrend in stocks began on March 9th of 2009, and it's continued up till now, including a sharp recovery from the correction earlier this year. That reversal has led to a record high for the NASDAQ, while the Dow Jones Industrials and the S&P 500 are close to their record highs. Many analysts expect the market to keep going up in the months and even years ahead, with some expecting the Dow to go over 30,000 before this bull market is over. Pat, how long do you think this trend is going to continue?
Well, I tell you what, I got some puts on the S&P myself, just in case. I want you to know, I think that it's on very shaky ground, but our resident guru tells me 30,000 is an attainable goal, so I hate to go against his wisdom, but I personally bought some puts just in case. All right, John.
Well, Pat, many analysts credit President Trump's business tax cuts with helping push the stock market higher. The Democrats have unveiled their own tax plan, and it rolls back much of the Republican reform plan. Democrats want to raise the business tax rate from 21% to 25%. They also want to increase the highest personal tax rate from 37% to 39.6%. The Democratic plan would cut the standard deduction for the estate tax in half, a tax that's sometimes called the death tax. And they would restore the alternative minimum tax for millions of families. Democrats say they want to spend that money on infrastructure, while Republicans blasted the Democratic plan, Pat, pointing out the bonuses, pay increases, and new business investments that have happened since the Trump tax plan went into effect.
I cannot believe the Democrats. Can you believe going into an election to say, what we want to do is raise your taxes? I remember some years ago when I was in the political thing, the Democrats had a candidate who was running for president. He's the former governor of Arizona. And he stood up and he said, let's stand up for taxes. You know, I want to say yes for taxes. And you think, you've got to be out of your mind. You think the American people want to have more taxes? Well, that was the old Democrat formula under Roosevelt, is tax and spend and spend. And if they taxed and they spent, and the people seem to go along with it. But they can't play that game anymore. The people are loaded down with taxation. The lower classes are having a real serious time making their budgets, and any more taxes will kill them. And they like the fact that they're getting bonuses from their corporations, that their 401s are going up, that their IRAs are going up, and it's a nice thing, you know, so anyhow. But I think that the Republicans will be laughing with glee if the Democrats pull a thing like this going into an election. John.
Pat, the White House is releasing its school safety plan today. It will help states pay to train teachers in firearms and repeats a call for improved background checks for people buying guns. But it doesn't include a push to increase the minimum age for buying assault weapons to 21. The administration will set up a new federal commission on school safety to examine the age issue, among other subjects. Well, being president is a tough job no matter which party or platform the commander-in-chief represents. But the Bible calls for people to pray for our leaders. So one congressman asked people in his district to help make that happen. It was intended to be a positive gesture until the media put a negative spin on it. Abigail Robertson brings us that story.
Congressman Mike Boss didn't like what he was seeing in our country in the beginning of 2017. Protests were happening more often, and many well-known people made it clear they did not support the new administration. So his wife had an idea. They should collect thoughts and prayers to send to the new president.
We thought maybe we'd get 30, whatever. It came back, there were hundreds.
People from age 5 to almost 100 wrote the president. The boss read through all of them to make sure only uplifting messages made it through.
There was a 90-year-old woman who on it said, "I've never written to a president, but I'm depending on you, and I'm praying for you every day that, you know, that you'll straighten this country out, and it needs it so bad."
Boss had the letters delivered to the White House and had no idea if they'd be read or not. Then, a few months later, he found himself in the Oval Office with the president.
He all of a sudden turned at me and he goes, boss, prayer cards." And I went, "Wow." I said, "Yeah, we sent you some prayer cards over."
A White House aide then pulled the bag of prayer cards off a shelf and brought them over.
He said, "You know, we use these every day." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's why they're here." He said, "We use them every day."
And it wasn't just the president who read them.
I turned, and honest to goodness, I turned and hit chest to chest with the vice president. And he goes, "Mike, he's not joking. We read these every day, and they're so wonderful."
Almost a year after that meeting, Boss received a picture of him with the president holding the prayer cards. His office decided to post the photo on social media. It went up 3 days after the Florida school shooting that killed 17 children, and the timing caused a great deal of internet backlash.
There was an atheist group that got on social media that said, "Here we have this shooting at this school, and all you're going to do is thoughts and prayers," and it got real negative from then.
Many people assumed the picture was taken that same day.
It's upsetting that in today's media, they would give a false impression of what it was and then badmouth what we did. Is there other action you can take besides prayer? You bet. But you can't not pray if you're a person of faith. You have to.
Boss tells CBN News he knows firsthand the impact thoughts and prayers can have on lawmakers.
Scripture is pretty clear that we need to pray for our leaders.
And it's something he's put into practice his whole life, no matter what side of the aisle the president was on.
I served with Barack Obama in the state of Illinois. Know him well. Don't agree with him. Didn't agree with him on quite a few things. But I never did not pray for him.
Despite the negative press, Boss tells me they already have a fresh bag of thoughts and prayers ready to go, and his wife hopes to soon collect submissions from around the country. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abby. And Pat, I know you're someone who well knows the power of prayer.
Well, I sure do. You know, we believe in prayer. We believe in the power of God. There's no question about it. But it's nice to see a president who is moved by the fact that people are praying for him. Now, there's something that's interesting. We have at Regent University a board of trustees, and one of the trustees was a famous neurosurgeon who served for a number of years and was a wonderful member of our board and a dear, dear friend. He has then been appointed by the president as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.